Hello and welcome to this week's Straight Talking Sport. Joining me today, Grant Elliott, is John Winchester and Kieran Pick. Today we are going to be talking about the Alan Pardew incident at the weekend. Can Manchester City make it a domestic treble? We'll also be talking about the cricket, the series between England and the West Indies. It's 1-1, who we reckon is going to win the final game. And we will also be previewing this weekend's Six Nations between England and Wales and all the other fixtures as well. So let's get started. Thoughts? We're going to be talking about Pardew first then. So, guys, initially, what are your thoughts on what happened this weekend?
I think we should go on record by saying that his actions were inexcusable. Headbutting, or how he put it, putting his head into someone else is, it's indefensible. Like, he shouldn't be doing that. He should either sitting down or staying away from the players if he's going to get into that sort of situation.
Well, Alan Pardew's no stranger to this sort of thing. I remember a couple of years ago he pushed the linesman over, which at the time I thought was quite funny. But he's had arguments with Wenger in the past, Martin O'Neill. So although he comes across as quite a nice guy, he's not learning from his mistakes at all. I think Newcastle have done the right thing by acting very quickly and giving him a formal warning and the £100,000 fine. I think they've done the right thing there. But in terms of the FA, they kind of do. I agree with what most pundits have been saying, in that they need to throw the book at him, because they can't let managers be behaving like that on the sidelines.
I think also people have been calling for the sack for him. Like, I think that's totally over the top. I think you get a £100,000 fine, you're probably going to get a touchline or stadium ban, as people have been saying. But people have been saying, like, you can't be doing that to players. He will have no control over the players if one of his players gets in a situation like that in the future.
I think what some people are saying is that Newcastle might not have an option but to sack him if he's going to have such a hefty touchline ban. He could be he might not be in the stadium for the last 10 games of the season. In which case, is there much point of having him in that role?
Yeah, but then it's sort of catch-22, isn't it, for Newcastle? Because we know that Pardew signed an 8-year contract a couple of years ago, and the fact is, do they accept and make him pay the fine that the FA will eventually give him, or do they sack him? And if they sack him, then they're going to get have to pay him a lot of compensation. And also, we've seen with clubs this season, such as Cardiff and Fulham, sacking managers, and West Brom as well, sacking managers, it hasn't proven to work this season. I mean, West Brom, Cardiff and Fulham will find themselves in lower league positions than what they would have been, and could that be the case for Newcastle?
I think now that they've fined Pardew, like, they can't continue to use what's happened as a threat to sack him. I think that now they find him, the club should move on. Whether the FA charge him, and they probably will, is a different matter. But they've charged him now, so I think they should stick by him and continue to let him be manager.
Well, it's not the FA's decision, of course, whether or not to sack Pardew. But if you was Mike Ashley, John, you're saying you wouldn't sack him?
No, of course not. Like, you get players that, you got Suarez who bit someone. If you're going to say sack Pardew...
It's a bit different, though. A manager and a player is a very different situation.
Well, it's not. They're all employed. Like, if someone does the same thing and you're going to give two different sets of opinions based on whether they're a player or a manager...
But if Pardew now sees one of his players attack or, punch or headbutt another player, then surely he can't have a go at that player because he's being hypocrite because of what he's done this weekend.
Well, it depends what sort of ban he gets, but the player's going to see that, the manager's got this ban for doing something.
Surely it doesn't matter what the ban is. The fact is he's done it, and he...
The question is, why did he even... I mean, he says he didn't mean to make contact, but the question is, why did he lean his head forward in the first place and get involved?
It was ridiculous. There was no need, was there? No need.
I still think that he's going to get a punishment, but it shouldn't be that his job's untenable, because he's doing a great job and he's let it's a lapse in concentration, I guess. But he's been given a punishment and he's accepted that. So,
But if you're one of the players in the Newcastle dressing room and Pardew's giving you a talk, whether that be at the training ground or just before a match, surely you must be looking at him, and thinking, we got a chance to maybe get away with some stuff, perhaps.
Yeah, it's not setting the
Bit
right
of leeway.
example.
It's not
No.
like.
but the FA's got to clamp down on all that sort of behaviour, whether you're the manager or a player, and they should be treated the same. Saying that someone should be sacked because he's done
It's because
something,
he's in an
and then
authoritative position and he should be setting the
Yeah.
example for his team. I think that's what the main problem
Yeah.
is that a lot of people have had.
you could be saying that by playing football, you're already in an authoritative position from being on the pitch and in the spotlight.
Yeah, I know. You see that kind of incident quite, not very frequently, but a lot more frequently on the pitch. But I think there's something very different. There is being a manager and being a player is very, very different roles. I think it's quite difficult to compare them just because they're employees of the same club or anything like that. I think the manager's so much more respected, so much more important at the club that it's almost as bad as a chairman doing it, I would say.
Okay, well, if the manager is going to be threatened from the sack by doing this one thing,
But it's not just one thing.
Well, okay, but this season he's done one thing, but he's been doing brilliant with Newcastle. He's got them in the top half of the table. You can't. I don't think that you can give double standards by saying that a player, say like the Suarez incident that I mentioned earlier, like he's going to bite someone, which is arguably worse than headbutting because you're physically, like, intentionally biting someone. But he wasn't threatened by being sacked by Liverpool. Like he was banned, like Pardew is going to be. Like once the punishment has been given out, you can't. I don't think that you can still threaten them with a sack. Newcastle had the opportunity to threaten with a sack or like stadium ban, touchline ban, or bigger fine. But they've done that, and they should move on. And once the FA have given their punishment, they should move on as well.
Don't get me wrong. I think it would be harsh if he was sacked, but I think that I can totally understand why some people are calling for his head.
Well, all we know is the FA are going to start their investigation, and we will find out briefly what the FA's punishment for Pardew will be. Moving on also to what happened this weekend in football. Obviously, yesterday, Man City beat Sunderland 3-1 in the Capital One Cup final. Could this be the platform for perhaps a domestic treble for City this season?
They've got the squad for it. And when they went 1-0 down yesterday, some people were questioning their bottle again about disappearing in the big matches and cup finals. But you saw from Yaya Touré's goal and Nasri's goal as well, they've got some players of extreme quality that I think will pull them through this season.
I think that their hardest challenge will be the Premier League now. They're almost impossible to win the Champions League now. They've got a 2-0 deficit, so that's almost out of the question. They've sort of got one foot in the door in the FA Cup. I don't want to rule Wigan out, but this year they're not going to make the same mistake, I don't think. But yeah, in the Premier League they've got Liverpool and Chelsea, and they're two.
Arsenal are still in contention as well.
Yeah, they are. I shouldn't rule them out either. But there's three strong teams.
Personally, I would rule Arsenal out. I don't think they've.
I think the top four is made up. Whoever can take the.
You think whoever this top four that is now, Tottenham, Everton, Man United aren't going to push themselves in it? It's going to be as it is.
I can't see it. The top four teams are there for a reason. They've been the strongest all year. Arsenal have been the strongest for quite a long time. They've sort of dropped. They lost to Stoke at the weekend. But I think that whoever does win it would be the worthy winners. And if it's Man City, then they're on the verge of a treble. So
this is actually Pellegrini's first trophy that he's actually won in Europe, actually, surprisingly. I mean, a lot of people were saying that they were doubting Pellegrini at the beginning of the season. Is he the right man for Man City to win trophies, considering he's never won anything for Villarreal and these other clubs that he's managed in Spain? But now he's got that first trophy. Surely that trophy is just as important to him as it is for the rest of his squad.
I think he was a very, very wise appointment from City. After Mancini, who's very passionate, very in-your-face kind of motivational style, Pellegrini is a lot more relaxed, but a lot more almost understanding, and the way he's got them playing at the moment is very exciting for City fans. And it's a massive trophy for him. I think he will see it as the stepping stone for bigger things in his personal career as well.
It was always going to be hard to follow Mancini after the first Premier League title that they won. But he's done it. He's got his first trophy in a great way. He's got on playing arguably better football this year, I'd say. Like Yaya Touré's coming strong, and you got Aguero when he's fit, and you got some new players coming in, and they've been playing some brilliant football. They just need to keep going in the Champions League next season and the season after to really get some progress going, I'd say.
Well, that was a big reason why they brought him in as well for the Champions League, because of what he did at Malaga last season, the good performances that they put in. They're 2-0 down against Barcelona from the first leg, 2 away goals, going to the Nou Camp. Are we saying nope, no chance, just, solely concentrate on domestic football?
Yeah, I can't see it unless Man City will have a chance if they can get an early goal. If it gets to 25 minutes or half an hour and it's still 0-0, I would say that's it.
I'd say that stranger things have happened, but it's going to be a really tough ask. I mean, Arsenal went to Bayern Munich last year and upset them. They were the only team for a long time to beat them at their ground.
Yeah, a lot of people were writing off Bayern Munich, as you say, going to Nou Camp.
But Barcelona, they played some really patient football at City. They frustrated them, and you could easily see that happening again.
I think it'll also depend whether Demichelis is playing at centre back, because I think he's the weak spot in that City defence. You could see again yesterday, his positioning was all over the shop, and he wasn't exactly sprinting back to cover himself. So if he's playing, Barcelona will be almost licking their lips.
Well, people were saying that Lescott was a bit unfortunate not to have played yesterday, seeing as he'd played in a lot of the rounds previous
Played in
to the
every
final.
minute.
Yeah, he was the only player.
And yet he didn't get to play. Pellegrini picked Demichelis because he knows Demichelis a lot, because he's had Demichelis at a few of the clubs that he's managed. So that was a big talking point as well. So you're saying if they have maybe someone else partnering company at centre-back?
Yeah, that's...
And Nastasic is still out, isn't he? He was maybe the first choice. I'm not. The jury's out on Lescott really.
His contract's running down at the end of the season. I think he knows that he's going to move on at the end of the season. He's preparing himself.
And also, last 5 years, like they've had the same sort of back line. Like they've invested so much in attacking and like wide players and all that, but their defensive line has stayed quite stagnant, I'd say, and they really need to invest some good defensive players in the summer.
So just to wrap it up with the football, domestic treble, do you reckon they can do it?
Possibly.
I personally don't think they will win the league.
If they don't win one, it'll probably be the league. But it's still strong for them, I'd say.
Yep. Okay. Going on to the cricket now. Then England beat West Indies yesterday, so it's 1-1 the series. What was quite surprising is that Joe Root opened the bowling for England yesterday, and we used 4 spinners. Is Giles maybe perhaps modernising the English game for cricket?
I think Ashley Giles is just trying to give himself a good account of himself in trying to become the new head coach of the team for all formats. I think it's quite innovative. The conditions don't necessarily suit the spinners that much, but I think another considerable factor is England's pace bowlers haven't been performing recently. Stuart Broad even blamed the first ODI defeat on the pace bowlers. So I'm not too surprised to see him utilising more of the spinners who are a bit more consistent, and the tactic they seem to be using is trying to cut down the amount of runs, not necessarily go for wickets, but frustrate the batsman by trying to get through quick overs. And I think it is a good sign. This ODI team's far from the finished product though, and dare I say it, they're missing Peterson a little bit for firepower in the batting.
Yeah, I think we saw some positive signs from England. There was a point in the game where they took 4 wickets in 4 overs. So Yeah, as Kieran said, they're not, they're far from complete. Like they probably still need a lot of work to do to get into full strength, but it's looking promising for the tournament next month. So,
not including Peterson, do you reckon that's a positive thing or a negative thing for England? Seeing as I know it was announced a while back, but this is the first real test that we've had series without Peterson. So, do you think that we are missing Kevin Peterson?
For his batting, obviously, he's throughout this whole period, no one has been questioning the quality of his batting. He is one of the best batsmen in the world, but I think the effect he has on the change room and the other players in the team, you can't do that in cricket. You can't be having a one-man team that's trying to call the shots all the time. So, we are going to miss his batting, but I think if it means we get a better team collective performance, then it's better for England.
I think it's a very long-sighted approach. You're looking to the future to bring some more players in, some players that wouldn't necessarily get a look in, but you always want to pick your strongest team, don't you? You want to pick the players that are performing. And as Kieran said, no one was really questioning his ability, especially at batting. So really, you want to keep him. Well, if you wanted the strongest team, he may well be in it. So you might want to have kept him in, really.
So going into the deciding match, it's 1-1 in the series. Who do you reckon? Do you reckon we'll edge it, or
we should do, definitely on the from what I've seen from both the first two ODIs, we should have won the first one. West Indies had an early batting collapse, but recovered due to poor bowling. I think they learned a lesson from that. The batting is still a bit weak. We should have won it far more comfortably, the second ODI yesterday. But yeah, I fancy England to just about pull through, I think.
Yeah, it's whether England make too many mistakes, really. If they don't, then they should win it comfortably.
Okay, previewing the Six Nations at the weekend, the biggest game is England-Wales, and you have to say whoever wins this is realistically going to go on and win it. The fact that Billy Vunipola not playing for England, is that a big miss going into such a key fixture?
It is because of his form. He's looked very, very impressive in the tournament so far. He's very quick for a guy of his size, and he can break through tackles, which I think it's a key aspect of England's game. Trying to break past the first tackle, make territory gains from that. But Ben Morgan will probably replace him, who has looked okay in his substitute appearances, and he's played for England before. It's not going to be new territory for him. So although it's a blow, I'd still fancy England to beat Wales.
Yeah, they'll have last year ringing in their ears when Wales almost whitewashed them. They only got 3 points against the 30 that Wales got to win it. But yeah, hopefully they'll come back and bring a stronger performance. And as you said, whoever wins this game could go on and win it, because
the fact
they're
that
the two strongest teams.
The fact that Twickenham is going to make a massive difference as well. And I think Wales have looked good considering their first weekend performance against Ireland, and England I think are a team that are getting better and better week by week. I think the performance against Ireland was the best I've watched England play for a couple of years now, and they look a lot more complete as a side.
And going into the other two fixtures, can you see an upset from either Scotland or Italy this weekend?
Possibly. Scotland will be on a high after their dramatic finish against Italy, and I'll be surprised if Italy can get a result against Ireland. Ireland will be desperate to recover from the defeat to England, and so Scotland can possibly do it. I think as long as they can beat France in the scrum, then that'll set them up nicely.
I think it would be a really tough ask for Italy to beat anyone in this now that they've lost to Scotland. They haven't been playing well at all. And yeah, especially after that last-minute drop goal that to give Scotland's victory against Italy. Yeah, I think they're destined for the wooden spoon.
Okay, that wraps things up for another week on Straight Talking Sport. Remember, you can send us an email at straighttalkingsport@gmail.co.uk. You can feel free to tweet us. I am at GDE93. John is
At JohnWin51.
and Kieran,
At the Kieran Pick.
and that is spelled Kyran.
Thanks.
You can leave a comment if you want in the box below, and see you next week.